Hello, everybody. We're back at the Soulpreneur Podcast today, again with Jessica and me, Martin. Welcome. And today's episode, we're going to talk about facing crossroads and turning points in your journey as an entrepreneur. So, Jessica, I'm curious to hear what was your last, like, a moment of truth or turning point in your life as an entrepreneur you faced?
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Martin, for this very profound question. I think especially as we are going towards the end of the year, starting the new year, this feels always like it's a question to reflect on. And I actually
Mm-hmm.
definitely had like one of those moments where I was at the crossroad a few weeks back as an entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
that really something happened that made me really deeply reflect if what I'm doing is still accurate, if I'm supposed to be an entrepreneur and offering my service as I offer it now. And at that moment, it was like an external factor which actually triggered me. I would say, like in retrospect, it was a trigger, but it was so deep that it really activated deep inside of me, like feelings, thoughts, and just made me think that that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm doing, is not what I'm supposed to do. So there I was really at the crossroad. I could have made the decision to either continue doing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So like kind of force it with willpower. And I know I can do that. I have very strong willpower. But as I've been so long on this personal development journey, which we talked about them so many times regarding connecting to yourself, creating from within, leading from within, I just felt like this isn't right. I don't know what it is, but I need to like stop doing what I'm doing. And it was very, very sudden. It actually really happened in one afternoon. And so I
Mm-hmm.
took then like really for the next week, I canceled all my calls except for two calls. And I was just like, I call it in the void, in like the nothingness. And it really hurt me. Like it was really like a heartbreak that the business I've built and how I've been serving my clients and my community, it didn't feel aligned anymore. And it's a heartbreak to then like it was really like let go of these what I've been building the last 2 years. It was a lot of effort, a lot of sweat, tears, and energy. And up until then, it felt so right and it brought me so much joy. But
Mm-hmm.
I had to be really true with myself, even though I didn't know how to continue or like what's kind of next. And I need to like let it go. And I think I'm still in this process of like, I call it like shedding layers of this
Mm-hmm.
or what it has been and really like letting unfold what comes through from there. Like what I've realized since then is like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and this is part of the entrepreneurial journey, especially if you want to create impact and value. And I just
Mm-hmm.
felt like there's something deeper there for me to offer to my clients or even serve different kind of clients. And I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
yet what it will be.
Okay.
Like I'm still in this, but I can definitely tell that this, first of all, it was
Yes.
a crossroad because I had different decisions to make. So like force it,
Yeah.
let it all go and find a job. But I was also like, no, it doesn't quite feel
Mm-hmm.
right. So just sitting with everything that came up, like this heartbreak. And I think reflecting back to other points in my life where I had that, I probably used to force or continue doing it because I've put so much effort into building something, even though I already knew it wasn't right anymore. So it took me even more energy and then it had derived my energy. So when I got to this point a few weeks back, it was really okay, no, I can like let this go more. And it's still allowed to hurt and like be uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
as I said now, like I realized there was like a trigger for me, but a trigger, I also say trigger is something for us. It's a treasure. There's always a treasure behind the trigger. And I can see there's something really deeper unfolding where I'm not really sure can name it yet, but I know I feel that this capacity to trust and let it come. And also the crazy thing is like when I made this decision to let it go and to trust and to be in this unknown, like so many miracles happened, like money came to me unexpectedly and just supported supported me financially to be in this nothingness and not to put something else out right away. So this is
Mm-hmm.
like really crazy. Like I've read about this before, but now I can
Mm-hmm.
see it happening. But I'm still in this process. I'm curious to how it will unfold.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. So I can hear and feel that it's an emotional thing when something like that happens. Let's say it that way, and it's quite recent. So you were really able to just share now what you've been going through, or probably still are in this process, as you said. Um, hmm. I think in general, you think. I mean, what you described is something probably, as I understand, is that you're coming at the crossroad where suddenly something doesn't make sense anymore, or you question yourself, or it can also be something very different. Let's say your business is just not running well, so it's not a
Mm-hmm.
question of believing or feeling, am I doing the right thing? Or so there can be many triggers, or things that suddenly you sense, or you realize, okay, now I'm at the crossroad. So I think it has this suddenness somehow in it. Is that your experience? And also what I just felt from you is that it's usually then it's very emotional, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think really when you come to a crossroad, it has a suddenness,
Mm-hmm.
like it hits you. But I think when you then reflect a little back, it's like, oh, everything has been leading up to this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really an
Mm-hmm.
invitation for you to reflect on that and like sit with what's coming up. Like there are deep, deep emotions attached to it. As I said, it really felt like a heartbreak,
Mm-hmm.
a deep, deep heartbreak. Like I would have, as if I would have broken up with my boyfriend who have been together for 7 years or so. I don't know, but like,
Yeah.
and where does this come from? It was,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just, and I think it's especially when you're an entrepreneur and you've had a business
Mm-hmm.
and you had an exit, you sold it, or you had to stop working for different reasons at at your company. I think there is
Mm-hmm.
heartbreak involved when you're an entrepreneur leading from within with your heart, with your soul, because
Mm-hmm.
it's something
Mm-hmm.
you've invested so much time in it. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs can resonate with this. And also, I think this is very important to speak openly about this, to give this the time it needs. And I know we don't always have this time, as I just
Mm-hmm.
described, to do like
Yeah.
nothing, even though doing nothing is not doing nothing. It's again what we talked recently about is this
Yeah.
non-time. But I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us think then maybe, oh, I need to do the next thing, or like, oh, I failed. Like this came also up for me. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a deeper
Yeah.
layer to this failure. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's also important to
Mm-hmm.
talk about this, to give yourself the space and time and find spaces also where you can talk about this. Because as I've been
Mm-hmm.
talking to more entrepreneurs, I see this as something that happens quite a lot, especially if
Okay.
you've
Mm-hmm.
invested or you've built a business and it's not succeeding and
Mm-hmm.
you need to file bankruptcy or whatever. This can come with like depression and heartbreak. And this needs to be
Mm-hmm.
very valid because it has been something you have been like birthing, kind of like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like how is this something you can resonate with or
Yeah, sure. Because, I mean, I had a similar experience. I mean, I had to leave my company because, or I chose and decided to do it finally because I was burned out. And even before that, there were crossroads during the journey of building a business. Um, One example is maybe when all of a sudden, first time you and your co-founder are not aligned on like a very important decision, maybe, or you are arriving at the crossroad together and someone is saying, I want to go that way, and the other one says, no, I want to go that way, you know. So I had that experience as well. And I think, yeah, they're all like sudden in a way, but also when you're there, when the moment, you know, the moment of truth, this facing moment, when you come up to now, okay, the motion starts, the emotions are starting, you know, you lose clarity, maybe there's conflict, um, a lot of friction, you know, once you're there at the road, somehow at the crossroad, there's friction. And so it feels sudden, but usually it's some time leading up to that. You know, it can be like health related, it can be financially related, whatever. Um, so I can go into more a bit of that for sure. I think also another perspective I want to bring into it, maybe also now, this felt all a bit of heartbreaking stuff, kind of, right? It can also be the other way from my experience, that all of a sudden it's more like an opportunity, like a chance in a positive way. Let's put it that way. I mean, a lot of times if you're in the moment and it's hard, you will look back and say it was good, it happened. And usually that's how we are wired, right? We're optimists. But still, some crossroads, when you arrive at them, they're like immediately you feel like, oh, this is a big chance. And the feeling
Mm.
of like taking that leap of faith can be the same, you know. It can be, like your fear of losing something and your fear of winning something also a bit, you know. I think that's quite interesting. Um, I don't know, maybe you have examples like that also when you look back a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, then when a crossroad comes and it feels like an opportunity, it's like something that just came to mind is like when we met. Like it was a crossroad, an opportunity to
Hmm.
decide to create something together. And obviously, always
Hmm.
when you decide something, you close the door to other things. And I think
Hmm.
it's very
Hmm.
important to also feel into like who do you want to co-create with? Because even though there might be so many opportunities that present to you that are being presented to you, it's
Hmm.
important to really think like not only from this opportunistic point of view, but really like what does feel truly right for me, even though this other thing might make more sense, like of the opportunistic wise. But
Hmm.
really then go like, can you take a risk and follow your intuition and decide on something where you might
Hmm.
others may say like, what are you doing? It's
Hmm.
obvious to do you
Yeah.
do the other thing. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it has this maybe the way. Oh, you're gone. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah, I lost my earphone. My
Okay, I
ear.
got
Oh,
you.
sorry.
Anyway, no, I think, yeah, I think usually then what's on the other side of the crossroads? Maybe that's a bit the topic also, you know. I mean, and I think in coaching, you know, when I work in coaching with solution orientated coaching, there's this perspective we have, and one is deciding to move away from something, you know, leaving something, and the other one is going towards something. And sometimes they're immediately connected, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes you're leaving something behind because you want to, right? And then you're in the middle, you're like in a vacuum, you know, or you're in a transition phase. You don't immediately have then maybe already the answer to that's where I want to go to. So I think that's also interesting a bit. What kind of crossroad is it? What kind of decision is it? So am I leaving something? Do I have to take that step because it just happened or something caused it for me to
Mm.
ask that question? Or maybe I'm just not happy with the situation, like people in a job and then they quit the job, right? And sometimes they quit without having already a job. So they're not saying, I want to go there and I have the answers. No, I want to leave that. And then I
Yeah.
see, then I will find what I'm gonna, and then the next crossroad will arrive. And then I know, oh, okay, I have these opportunities and I'm gonna go that
Hmm.
way. And that's also something that I find interesting. um, what's the dynamic of this, and usually, of course, or actually always, it's a step forward into something unknown, right? Also what you
Mm-hmm.
just said a bit, you at the moment you decide, you think, yeah, the feeling is right, let's give it a try. It's like also when you apply for a job, you get the job, at the moment you say you got it, you're happy probably because you got it, you wanted it. And then you start, and maybe after a few weeks, you're like, not so great. But hey, that's just a new crossroads, maybe right there, right?
Yeah.
So I think it happens all the time, bigger and smaller dimensions. And I think, especially as an entrepreneur, though, it's usually, yeah, related to many fundamental things. Usually, how do are you doing financially? Financially, you're depending on it, right? So if you're employed and you can get another job or you already have one, there's probably less financial pressure. And so I think it's a bit more blended all together with how your life depends on it. And probably also the sweat and heart, blood you put in something, right?
Mm.
Building a company is usually something, yeah, that was just a lot of energy, and then it can be harder to maybe take those, steps over a
Yeah.
crossroad. That's at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely agree. I think the financial aspect, I think they also can sometimes hinder us in following fully our intuition.
Mm-hmm.
But I really made already now, I made the decision for 2025. I'm gonna
Okay,
follow my intuition no
cool.
matter what, like how crazy it is. So if we continue this podcast, you can follow along how I either run myself into bankruptcy or I will like, yeah. But let's see
All
what
right.
happens. Could keep you
Mhm.
posted. But I was wondering, do you think or believe that as entrepreneurs, we are more often faced with crossroads than when you're employed? First, I wanted to say like normal people.
Yes, no, no, no. I think so, yes. Maybe not because we're actually having more of those, but we're just realizing it more
Mm,
because we are um, influencing or holding on to all the things, that maybe if
yeah,
you're employed, you're not. So you don't even have to take those decisions, or you don't have that responsibility, so you just don't know about it, so you don't realize it. But maybe behind the
yeah,
scenes, you're employed, lots of things are going on. And as an entrepreneur, you're on the scene and behind the scene. So
yeah,
you're just all over the place, and so you just see them all the time. And yeah, so I guess the answer is yes. It's also a good thing because you can shape so many things, and it's fun, and it's what makes you grow. And it's also a cool thing to look back to. We talked about uh, before our podcast a bit about also the time perspective. So when you arrive at the crossroad, you take a decision, and it's hard, and even the decision process, or just going over, you know, that road or taking that direction. Yeah, it's time and energy. And then usually at some point you can look back, and then you can say, yeah, that was a turning point.
hmm,
And looking back, of course, you can say it was hard, but it turned out good. So it was just a turning point, but the result is more, the outcome is then more what happened. And you can't really say it's a good or a bad turning point. It was just a turning point. And just
yeah,
what happened afterwards, even after the turning point, it can go that way, it can go up and down, and it will always go up and down. And
yeah,
what's interesting, maybe as an entrepreneur, you can just look at the curve and say, we did that, we changed our business model, classical pivot moment, and hey, whoa, the curve went up. So
yeah,
um so you learn from them, you look back, and when you're at that point, you take that decision. Of course, you want it to go that way, but you don't know if
Yeah.
it will
Yeah.
do. So I think that's quite interesting. And over time, what you learn though, or is that in that moment you take the decision and you realize that you're at the crossroad and you take the decision, whatever comes out turns, what's the result, right? It doesn't even matter, even if it's not turning out the way you wanted it to be. At least in the moment when you took the decision with the information you
Mm-hmm.
had, the feeling, whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
said it was the right decision, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very important in retro perspective to not say, "Oh, that was bad" or "that was good."
Yeah.
That was the way it was. We had that's the information we had, the feeling, whatever the situation
Yeah.
we had to, and then this is what happened. This is what I learned from it. I would decide probably again on the same circumstances, right?
Yeah. Did you, I think it's very important the decision energy, like to make a decision, because sometimes you can also like loop in between things
Mm-hmm.
and like thinking, oh, we're just going to try both or three things. But I actually think it's very important to make a
Mm-hmm.
clear decision, because then you're turning the needle. And I'm
Yeah.
curious about two things. Was there ever a moment where you felt you were pressured into a decision where you felt like, oh no, it's actually not quite right? And
Mm-hmm.
then the other thing also very curious about, and I'm sure our listeners as well, before you mentioned, like you know you had a co-founder with your previous
Mm-hmm.
company, and you said like maybe you come to a point where you then have you want to take different decisions as co-founders. And maybe can you
Mm-hmm.
tell us also a little bit about how this process was for you, or how you can navigate that when you come to this I don't know actually if this was the case that you came to, if you ever had
Mm-hmm.
moments where you wanted to take different decisions, but yeah, that would be something I'm very curious
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm. 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 I mean, you have disagreements all the time or different opinions. So I think that's just a normal thing. Um, and but then maybe there's a fundamentally a crossroad that arrives where you will not find a consensus, or it's really hard, or it's so clear that both sides have a different opinion and they want to stick to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, I think that happened once. And what do you do then, right? Hmm. Yeah, looking back, I think it took me a lot of time afterwards to overcome that, or maybe digest or realize what was really going on. And then you come to the point where, after a certain time, you come to the point that, yeah, I guess that's how it is, right? You can't change it anymore. Or if you are part of a company, a board, and if the majority decides into one direction, then you have to
Mm-hmm.
accept it. So it wasn't just a one versus one thing. It was in the end
Mm-hmm.
a majority thing. And I think it's more so digesting normal process, accepting it. That all happened. I think it's all what you learn from it. That when you again are coming into such a situation, because usually these are sometimes just the first time you arrive at such a crossroads, right? And so that when you look back and say, maybe there was a chance I could have convinced the others to go that way, I think there's always a chance that it could have gone the other way, right? And that's not because of the others, it's usually because of you. And then you try to understand, why wasn't I able maybe to, or yeah. So it's more, in the end, I think it's a growth process for yourself. And that's what I did. And so that in the end you find the answers with
Mm-hmm.
and also try to understand, why did I really want to do something different than the others. And yeah, and then in the end, yeah, you take the consequences as they are. I think what happened with us, I stayed in the company, we continued and I only left later because I was burned out, so that wasn't immediately connected. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
different thing. Um, yeah, I think it's just quite normal that you will arrive at such a point. You just don't know
Yeah.
when, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest learning is just what did I learn from myself and how would I approach this or communicate the next time I'm in such situation. Yeah, I think that's a bit what I took out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I hear often that these can be really breaking points for relationships also, because in the end it's all about
Mm-hmm.
relationships and because
Mm-hmm.
it's humans, right? And that didn't happen. In our case, we're still same. We still trust each other and are still friends. And so that's also a bit maybe something you have to learn. Who is all in there? You know, we're all in the boat together. Who else is in the boat? But
Yeah.
once maybe you and that person or are in another boat together, how is it then? Or in another boat, it will be in another situation, privately or in a new business or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And honestly, it's just, we're talking about business, but I guess in life, everybody's facing those moments of disagreement at the crossroad, right?
Yeah. Also came to mind, like when you're in a marriage, you can't just quit if you would like maybe and where you're not married. It's like the same when you have a business, you have a contract, and it's
Hmm.
as you said, it's a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So then
wondering,
again, sorry, I'll say, yeah, just it's just emotions then, I think
yeah,
that's the hard part. And the emotions,
yeah,
I think rationally it's easy to digest, but emotionally not. But you will learn then to connect it and realize what happened.
yeah. Yeah, I think you actually said that very well, that also like you then reflected on also like within yourself, like why did you wanted to take this decision? How did it make you feel? Like this is
Hmm.
all emotion regulation. I think this is very important, like to come always back to yourself and really connect, like are they really my values, or am I reacting to something? And I think when you have
Hmm.
this awareness around where does this decision come from, you speak
Hmm.
differently and you behave differently. And so it also,
Hmm.
think you can also then easily differentiate if it, um, if you're co-founder, or also if you're like employed and it's your boss, or like,
Hmm.
yeah, um,
Hmm.
yeah, how it comes across when you then communicate, and you can more easily like say, no, it's actually really not right for me, and I'm leaving this
Hmm.
agreement. But I don't think this is something that comes overnight, but it needs time till you come
Hmm.
to this point. And I think it's all based again
Hmm.
on values. I think when you have similar values, like I think this is the key aspect of building a business together. Or what is your experience with that?
Hmm. Yes, totally. I think that was also an exercise I did afterwards in my process, not directly connected to that moment, but in general. And it helped me realize a bit, yeah, what are my values and maybe also why did I accept then the new situation. So I think you can have values that are on both sides, you know. Um, yeah, and so this will definitely help you understand more. And usually values are connected to your emotions in a way of when it's coming from within and maybe you cannot express it exactly what it is, and this is just your opinion, maybe you say.
Mm-hmm.
In the end it's really connected to what you want, what you feel, what's important for you, something that's of value for you is important for you. Maybe can be connected also then with fears or former experiences. It's quite complex, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good basis to have that also, just for yourself, not just in business and with others, like you have the company values, but especially having it for yourself, so that anytime in life you're at the crossroads, you can look at them and look at things and what's important to you, and maybe trying to
Yeah,
understand why am I more pull towards this, or why is this so hard for me right now, or why am I excited to go there, I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
I want to. you can't wait. So it's both
Yeah.
ways. And I think one thing that helps there, or could have helped me also, or what I've heard also others saying, is having someone in that process that does like is like a moderator, or
Yeah.
like having someone to reflect with. So once again, peer exchange with others, right? As we do it right now, as we talked about it before, talk to others who were in maybe similar situations. How was it for them? And probably have your friends to talk to. And then maybe it's even sometimes really good to have someone really neutral
Yeah.
and professional. So kind of like that come in and moderate such a process, or it can be your personal coach. Kind of like when we work also with people, when we help them to understand a bit where they at and finding answers. That's usually also very helpful. So you don't, um, yeah, don't rush, or you just it just eases things out and you're less overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they're going to take the decision for you, or they're not going to tell you uh, how it will turn out. It just helps you find more clarity and also understanding a bit the whole thing better. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also valuable um if you have someone who comes into your company and maybe like works as an internal coach within a
Mhm.
company, so you all like the person really can observe and bring an external perspective. I think this is like something you do as well, which I think is so valuable if you're in these situations.
Mhm.
Something else I'm wondering is, did your values change now that you went into a deeper personal development reflection in the last years?
Mhm. Yes, and I think they do change over time. I think probably some always stay the same. I guess we're kind of like wired with them, and they stay. And sometimes they're more present than others. And I do keep coming back and look at them for time, or from time to time, or do another exercise again a bit to find out. Um, yes, they do change, definitely. I think now that you ask me, maybe I'm not sure if they do change. I think they just become, you realize more, you just are more aware of that something's important to you,
Mm,
which means it's of value of you. Let's let's take the example for me. I was true to my burnout. Of course, it's a mental issue. Then you heal, but for me, it was especially with my body. I have stomach issues and stuff like that. So I was just not healthy. And then, of course, health became one of my major values, important to me. But actually, it was before, but I was healthy, so it wasn't really, I was just moving, doing lots of sports, full of energy, and still, I never thought about it kind of like that's a important value. But now I write it down because I just had this experience of how it is when you're not
mhm.
healthy, not like a flu. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm sick, and then after a week you're fine. So it's not everybody has this value. Everybody wants to be healthy, but truly understanding a bit what it means if something is not there anymore and what can you do for it. I think it's also values is also that you put effort into it, you know,
Mm.
because you're getting something bad for it. So kind of like your inner karma balance thing of what is important to you. You also have to
Yeah.
invest in it, right?
Yeah.
Look for,
Absolutely. But
it's
yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think it's really like these turning points, they make you reflect again over and over on your
Mhm,
values. And you either connect more
mhm,
deeper to certain values. And I think it's also okay if sometimes certain values are more at the front and maybe then others are more important again. And I think this can also like switch, but like turning points, they kind of force you to reflect on that. And I think it's important to take then the time to really connect again with what values are important at the moment for you now, but also for the long term, and how do you want to move from this
Mm-hmm.
crossroad or turning point, because when you're on a crossroad, maybe sometimes also a decision regarding which value do I focus at the moment. Is it my health, my wealth, my
Mm-hmm.
family, my business growing? Yeah. Also, when you do
Mm-hmm.
like you decide on a different business strategy, it's also can be
Mm-hmm.
concerned regarding different values.
Yeah.
It's always comes
Mm-hmm.
back.
Yeah, or actually, now that you say that, I think they maybe change a bit in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say prosperity is it Wohlstand in from German? Let's put it that
Yes.
way. It's just having enough money, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of like yeah, just this is how I want to keep my standard kind of way.
Yeah.
And always it can always go up, but maybe then you realize I don't need to build the next company that's at super scaling, and I can get rich from it in terms of money rich as we understand it. Then you see like, yeah, I still want to have this kind of level. It's still important for me. Um, but maybe there's other ways to get there, you know,
Yeah.
um, slower or whatever, not
Yeah.
a thing, just by yourself. And then the number that's behind that, it's not so important, but the effect is still more or less the same because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So like I said, I'm just investing more maybe into staying healthy before it just came, or maybe you're putting more into an energy of building a huge company, or you want to raise
Mm-hmm.
money and max it out, or you say no, I want to build a business that's self-sustained, of course, profitable still, but grows organically,
Yeah.
and what I get out of it is still a good life, and I can go on holiday and pay my bills and offer myself a new pair of shoes every now and then, when I feel
Yeah.
like.
When there's
So
a hole in the shoe.
yeah, yeah, and also probably I guess things come into your life that, like me, once you have kids, you become aware of values that you probably had but never really looked into. They, and or they
Mm-hmm.
build. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe yeah, they come and go or change a bit from perspective for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just as I said before, I really think when you get to a crossroad, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to look and reflect on your values again, so you can
Mm-hmm.
make an informed decision. I think then you also can listen more deeply to your intuition and
Mm-hmm.
create this decision from within.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even if there is like fear present or you like uncertainty or unknown, you can make this
Mm-hmm.
decision more clearly because you're connected to something deeper, like you're true to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think what's helping there is what you've learned in the past, So I think it's a few things. It's your knowing your values, they will always help you. Once then learning from having those turning points in the past, and also understanding a bit where you're at with like what are you capable of, what are your strengths,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if it's a decision in business forward. And
Mm-hmm.
give you an example right now, my company's still very young. I'm by myself, and I'm still experimenting. And how do you combine like rational business logic, like yeah, you need to find product market fit. This is best practice. This is how you grow step by step, versus like, is this in line with my values? Is this what I want?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this what I feel maybe that makes more sense? And like in strategy, for example, like it's all about finding um, your unique position, unique value proposition, being different, and so you go by the head and try to form this like, yeah, otherwise I'm not going to be successful. And then you're like all by yourself and think, this is what makes me successful. This is what who I am. This is what I know, what I can, what is of value of me. And so this can be a challenge. And ideally you can start to bring that together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of the process I'm in right now. And it's I have the feeling that's a bit what you were in now, where you described in the beginning, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
crossroads can also be triggered by just from all the outside noise or all the best
yeah,
practice things or the way it should be, especially in business, because you read all the time about, you have all the books, you have all the experts and everything.
yeah,
And so I guess taking a step back, slowing things down at if you're in such a moment or in such a phase is crucial, as you did, as you were describing, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I think what you just said is very valuable regarding the mind. Like, if you're an experienced entrepreneur, I'm making this assumption now that you're like a smart, ambitious person who knows a lot of tools and
Mhm.
strategies. And obviously, you can follow what other people are doing. And I think it's key when you're starting a new business or also when you experience to look outside, what are others doing and learning from them. Like if someone has done a
Mhm.
mistake, you might not need to do it yourself. So I think this is a key aspect to look on the outside. But then I
Mhm.
think there's important time to like kind of shut off the outside noise because you know the
Mhm.
tools, you know the strategies, you have tried them, but then really go within yourself and create and
Mhm.
lead from there. Like, what does it truly feel right to you? Yes, maybe they tell you post every day on LinkedIn, comment on every post, but does that truly feel right to you? Like, this is something I really encourage you to think about when you listen to this. Is this like the strategies you have implemented in your business now, the direction you're going? Does this really feel right to you? Is there actually something where it pulls you more towards to like to do something more different? Even though you might have from the mind already made the decision, you can always take a course direction. And I think this
Mhm.
going within is so important to kind of shut off some outside noise for a while and to really create from within
Mhm.
yourself, because you know all the tools, you all know the strategies, and we will always learn more, especially while we are doing. And then when this like kicks off and it's like in I call it like in the flow, then automatically you will look and find other people who might do similar things a bit different and you learn from them again. So I think it's like a bit of a
Mhm.
cycle
Mhm.
to really then
Yeah.
maybe it's like learning first from the mind, but then really like you know you have the tools, the strategies, and then really
Mhm.
go a level deeper, like a few levels deeper.
Yeah, I think in the end it's what feels right for me, right? I
Yeah.
think it's so
My business,
simply
yeah.
easily said. And
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is just to stop. You know, I think looking back at some of the moments I had there, the one I talked about a bit, I think things just went too fast. Looking back, I think I don't need to change. I just need to I would be more aware and say like, okay, hold on. I know what we're at the crossroad and this is a big one. This is not just like,
Yeah.
an easy step. I think so you learn from experience and yeah, and then yet again, as you said, like even experienced entrepreneurs, you need to remind yourself sometimes again of like this dynamics and be like, yeah, okay, let's cool down, let's slow down,
No
breathe,
down, yeah.
slow down. Yeah. Slow down to speed up, right?
Yeah. Slow down to speed up.
Totally.
I think
Yeah.
also something important to add here or to end is
Mhm.
sometimes when you get to a crossroad, it can feel like you have been here before. If it's a business decision or also in personal
Mhm.
life, like it feels like you might going in a circle, but you are
Mhm.
never going in a circle. Like you're going actually like in a spiral, because every time you have like a little bit more awareness and more awareness till you, for me, it's like the spiral goes up and out. and you finished, you feel like complete a full circle. But to do that, it's actually like a spiral. So you complete the spiral.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how it is for you, but sometimes it can feel frustrating. It's like, why am I here again? Like, I feel like I've done that
Mm-hmm.
before.
Yeah. What I like about the picture, it's progress going up, you're right.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. Yeah. Or actually it is usually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that.
So
Are we at the
yeah, thank you.
are we at the crossroad of our podcast today?
Yeah. Making a hard decision to stop now and to
Cool.
wish you a wonderful day, and we see you next time. Thank you so much for this great exchange, Martin, as always.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Great. I also learned again, and we'll take some time to reflect maybe on some things that are on my list.
Yeah, same for
So
me.
thank you guys for listening also, and speak soon. See you soon.